Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's interview on Actually Caucasian. Today's extremely honored guest is a friend of mine, someone I've been lucky enough to know for generations, lucky enough to know for years, most of my life, a good friend, Dana Wajuch. You may know her. Today's topic is, of course, May 21st and the commemoration of our genocide. It is a very solemn and haunting day for all Circassian people across the world. I'm trying to do my best to share on my page, through my stories, different things that are happening throughout the world. So many acts of solemn contemplation and just remembrance of what our ancestors went through. And this page is heavy on the ancestors. So Dana is on, and I'm going to go ahead and bring her on just so we can get started on today's special conversation. And I'm really excited. I'm happy that she was able to join me. Let me go ahead and add her. And if you haven't heard Dana talk, and if you haven't heard Dana in general, you're going to see why I was thrilled when she accepted my invitation to come on here. So I sent her the invitation. There she is. Hi, Dana. How are you?
Good. How are you, Noor?
I'm good. You're as radiant and beautiful as ever. My nickname for Dana used to be Sunshine.
You weren't used to.
No, you're still.
You
Actually,
are epitome of sunshine, mashallah. Look
thank,
at this, mashallah.
oh, stop. It's the ring light.
That helps. I was actually thinking before I got, I'm like, I wish I had something like that. I'm trying to fix the angles and everything. I'm propped up on some janky ass thing.
Stack of books and all that good stuff. You gotta
Yeah.
love it. At
Yeah.
least you're not tiring your arm out. Um, so today's interview is brought by Dana's nephew's nap. And I want to give him his space in this conversation because without him, this is not happening. So
No.
that sweet little Wes, your brother and his wife, just what a little sweetheart. I just wanted to give him his credit because he's a part of this team.
He's doing a solid right now by taking a nap, and hopefully it'll last and he'll wake up happy, and that's all we want.
So sweet, so sweet. Okay, Dana, I expressed all of my super caps lock excitement when we were going back and forth the other night, but I do want to just say thank you for coming on here. I don't think my May 21st on this page could be any more special. If you were if this is as good as it's going to get for me, literally, it's such a joy to see you and talk to you. I want to just get right into it. I want to know everything inside of that head. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So she sent me a bulleted list. Talk to me about again, this excellence, right? And I just want to open the floor to you. Whatever you want to start with. You want to start with your own background. You want to start with just some thoughts on today. Where's your head at? Where are your thoughts kind of just flowing? We have a lot of people on here excited to hear you talk, so I don't want to keep them waiting.
Well, first of all, Noor, thank you so much for having me. You've been doing a great job on your page in the past couple interviews. I actually took some time to catch up on a couple of them because I can't always join live, but a wonderful job in bringing this conversation back because it is necessary. The idea of culture, the idea of identity, the idea of who we are basically in our traditions and everything, it's so necessary because we are competing with so much out there, so much in our modern world. We're bombarded with everything, and sometimes the very things that ground us is culture, is our identity, is who we are, is our history, is all of these things that really make up who we are. And this will, understanding that will help us, I want to say, like, navigate everything else that gets thrown at us too. So I want to just begin by saying that you're doing a wonderful job. I wish you all the luck in continued endeavors, and I'm honored to be here, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
I before, like, yes, you're right. I have been around. I have been doing May 21 stuff, being an activist for so many years. Sometimes I feel like people are like tired of hearing from me or whatever. But whatever it is, this is as important of a day as it's going to get.
Right.
And I think before we even continue further, I think each of us should really take a moment, and just like a moment of silence, even like right here, right now, and just reflect what's really happening. Like, what does this day really mean? Because I think we get caught up with a lot of stuff, and it's just like, let's take a minute and just think and just reflect, and maybe say a prayer for all of those who we lost.
Okay. Do you want to do that? Let's do that then.
Yeah.
Take a moment of silence, okay?
Yeah. But it's important to do that too, because that is the reason why we're here. And we're 158 years from those traumatic events. And I think each of us has to take a moment, like at any point of the day, especially today, but like just to sit with it and see what's really happening, like behind us, like what's really happening inside our everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, we mark 158 years from our expulsion from the Caucasus, but after that, the trauma that our people faced, entering lands that were not ours, going through all types of traumatic systems, and just you know, extremely unsettling and horrific experiences. It took a long time for that to even settle. So this day marks that expulsion, right? The final nail in that coffin. But it was, I mean, I'm still trying to understand and digest our own history, because it's hard to wrap your head around so much pain. But like, even till today, you know, like, our people are in these lands that are not our homeland, and we're just like you said, navigating this sea of modernity. Like, we're just all kind of in it together.
Yeah.
So
I just want to add some things to what you just said. Recently, I heard, just this past week, and I'm trying to find the source for it. Our nation endured 101-year war for Russia to subjugate us. And I heard a statistic out there, and it's mind-boggling, that Russia spent more on subjugating the Caucasus, subjugating Circassia, than the UK, that the Great Britain spent on subjugating India and China combined.
What? That's crazy.
I'm trying to find the source for it.
Wow.
But when you hear that fact, and we all know, like, we have a better understanding of what what Great Britain did colonially to the Indian subcontinent, the Chinese people as well. And when you think about that, it's like, oh my God, like, combined, they spent more at, like, Russia, like, it's like unbelievable. And part of it is like, there's a sense of pride too. You know, it took 101 years and all those resources to subjugate us.
Right.
And that is, we're as tough as they come when you think about We are warriors, you know. It is
Right.
just something that we're just saying, whatever. Like, it's true. Like,
Right.
we are warriors through and through. Like, and up until then, up until in our whole entire history, Circassia was free. Nobody could subjugate us. Nobody could do it. And it took 101 years and the most horrific acts of humanity to rid us of our land, to rid us of our country, basically.
Right.
Circassian is a nation denied by genocide. It's as simple as that.
Right.
And I think we know that something horrific happened. We know that it is unbelievable and quite unimaginable what had happened to us. But a lot of it is still unknown to us.
Right.
Because after I don't want to even say ancestors, but they're only 4 or 5 generations out, 6 generations
Right.
away, you
Right.
know, like it's not that long ago.
Right.
58 years ago. It's when you think about like historical timelines, it's not that far,
Right.
especially because we're still feeling the repercussions of it. And so when you think, where was I going with this? When you think about it, the acts of horror that was enacted on to our people, it is something that we don't know. We don't know what happened. We have yet to have a thorough understanding of what happened to our people. We have yet to know like the methods of how the Russians had come into our villages and burned the entire place to the ground where nobody could live anymore. And that was the only way that they could think of to rid our people from our land.
Right.
And we don't know like the details of what happened. And it's only coming to light now because with the opening of the Georgian archives 10 years ago, then we're able to understand like, okay, and maybe even dispel some myths as well, because there was a myth that it was the Ottomans that had taken us from our land by ships.
Right.
But there's documents that prove that was, no, that's not the case. Statistically, it was Russian ships that were taking us from our land.
Right.
And I think there was one document that I had seen in a course of 27 days, 27,000 Abzak had left one port on overcrowded ships, and not all of those ships made it, not all of those people made it. And so a lot of our people are on the bottom of the Black Sea too.
Oh my
And
God.
you're thinking, and it's almost unimaginable to conjure up these images in your mind, but it's necessary. And it's not something like you could watch a movie about, because I honestly quite think that Hollywood, if they try to put this on a big screen, it is way too gory.
Yeah.
Like it's horrific what had happened, especially when you think of like a dead mother on the beach of the Black Sea and a baby clutching, just
Right.
wanting kind of sustenance.
I have
Like,
read that account. I've read that account.
it's
Yes.
heavy. It's heavy. And so I think there has to be, we need a much more thorough understanding of what had happened, because only then will we have a better understanding of what happened to us, but also because we have to know how we're going to move forward. How are we going to heal as a nation? How are we going to get Circassia back? Because all of this it's connected.
Right.
It's all
Right. And you know, modernity and the modern systems that we're living in, especially in the West, especially in America, they want you to believe that that's such a long time ago, and that, you know, it's just about now, and it's like YOLO and all this stuff. But to truly, truly connect with yourself, as I've experienced in my life, you have to try to connect with the past to some degree. And I know you have experience talking with First People and Indigenous people of all backgrounds, which just mwah, because it's such a special conversation to have on this continent, and just hear it from another, you know, standing point where you have to, in order to know yourself and to know who you are now, you have to know what happened before you came. um and it's so special in that regard.
Well, also because it's really important to understand, because we see the same systems happening, the
Right.
same patterns happening.
Right.
And just this past week, um, there was a conference in the European Parliament. Probably you've seen the posting somewhere online. We're talking about the Circassian genocide. And
Wow.
Fatima is a wonderful journalist who comes from the Caucasus. She's Adiga. She's had some harassment done to her, some persecution, some horrific things because of his writing. And they're all true things. And she made a poignant observation in her remarks. And I'm going to paraphrase now. But the horrors that we're seeing in Ukraine, for example, in the cities and the towns of Ukraine, were planted in the villages, in the homes, in the countryside of Circassia.
Right.
It happened in Sochi. It's happening in Ukraine. Like it's the same. It's the same aggressor who's doing it. It doesn't matter if it's the Russian Empire, if it's
Right.
it's the same.
Right.
Because each I guess makeup of the Russian government is just a continuation of whatever came before it.
Just like America.
Exactly.
Country.
They're all benefiting from what came, or not even trying to rectify what happened in the past, but trying to like advance whatever they're going to do. So I think it's really
smarter.
And exactly. And so I think it's really important to understand that we're seeing it. We're seeing it. And the things that happen to our people,
right.
I think you mentioned this in another interview you did. I don't remember with who, but our nation, our people went through a beep. Yeah. every ounce of disgust, whatever the worst of humanity has to offer, happened to our people.
Right.
And nothing happened. Like the perpetrators weren't held accountable for it at that time. And so that creates a cycle like, okay, if they got away with it, we're going to get away with it. And then we saw that with the Armenian genocide. Right. And then Hitler said, who remembers the Armenians? And then he did his final solution with the Holocaust.
Right.
And it's this disgusting cycle. Right. Of saying like, oh, we're gonna get nothing happened to them. They weren't tried for their crimes. They weren't held. There was no mirror held to the injustices that they did. And so I think it's important that we all have to know exactly what happened, because it's just going to. We all say never again. We'll never forget. But like, if you're not learning this, if you're not understanding the truth of what happened, it's going to happen again. Yeah, it's going to happen again. And that's. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and that's why on my page I do like to share Palestine. I like to share First Peoples, stories, things that are happening in Canada, pipeline, activities and controversies, and the the boarding schools that they were putting children in for generations on this continent, and like the issues that are happening in China, the human rights issues. And these are things because of what we endured, that, and I've read this too, that it laid the groundwork, like you just said, for so much pain that came afterwards for so many people. The Trail of Tears, the Holocaust, the Armenian genocide, like even today in Ukraine, like you said, it's just the same repetitive, not like BS. It's so infuriating that I feel like us as a people, we have such a amazing position to hold, where we are truly able to stand up for oppressed people and say, look, like that happened to us. We can speak on generational trauma and issues.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. We have to, but I want to also say that we have to recognize our own oppression.
Right.
have to
Right.
recognize that this happened to us and it's continuing to happen. It isn't like it happened in the past. We still don't
Right.
have the return to our homeland. We
Right.
still don't have the right to learn our own language in our homeland,
Right.
even in our homeland. Even if we're speaking about these issues, we're faced with harassment. People are afraid to say Circassia. They're afraid to say genocide. We're
Yeah.
afraid to put up monuments that depict the victims of these events. The monuments that are in are occupied Circassia. I always have to correct myself. It's occupied
Right.
Circassia.
Right.
Is because of the monuments that are up there are the ones who perpetrated those horrific events. They have busts of the generals that did these horrific things to us. So while I do agree that we have to have an eye on other oppressed nations, we have to recognize our own oppression. We have to work and dedicate serious manpower, serious like brain power to learning about what had happened. Like, I mean, there's hundreds and there's hundreds of doctors that and thousands of professors and articles that have dedicated time to the Armenian genocide
Right.
as it should be.
Right.
Same with the Holocaust as it should be. There's museums that you could go visit and have a greater understanding of what happened as it should be. We should have the same as well. And I think for May 21 and upcoming May 21s, we should use it as a benchmark of where we are in terms of how we're understanding what happened to us and how we're going to progress into the future. How are we going to teach what happened to our younger generations? How are we going to inform other people of what happened to other nations and perhaps even tell them, this is what happened to us. We don't want it to happen to you. And so you could learn from what had happened to us and see there's always lessons to be learned, but we have to do the work ourselves first.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Thank you so much for that. You worked on, especially around the time of the Sochi Olympics, the Winter Olympics, you and a team of passionate people worked long and hard to raise awareness to the genocide because of the way that the Sochi Olympics had been planned, the way that it kind of played out. You visited Vancouver, you went to Europe, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. You spoke with delegates, news stations. You guys did so much work. Um, if you want to kind of just, what did you pull from that experience? Maybe take some of us back there that, didn't know you at that time or weren't aware of your work at that time.
Before I get into that, I think I'd like to first relay how I became an activist.
Okay.
Just like you, we grew up together.
Right.
We came up through the dancing and the performing arts, a wonderful, beautiful time. But besides the actual learning of the moves, the choreography, and everything, there was always something in the background where we're learning about nationhood. We're learning about our nation, learning about our community and how we're supposed to be giving back. How many times, especially in the CASA, the CBA, where I don't want to say tasked to do it, but like we were encouraged or told that we have to do something to give back to our community. And since that young age, that was always in my mind. Like it's not just about being a Diga, coming into the casa,
Right.
enjoying whatever is in front of us and learning how to dance, learning how to perform on stage, getting the confidence to do that. You have to give back to your nation. And so that was always in the back of my mind. And after we had finished performing, I would guess, it was around the time after high school or something, around college, or this was around 2007, where there was talk that Sochi was going to be the site of the 2014 Winter Olympics.
Right.
Up until that time, I didn't know what Sochi was. Nobody had that it was the capital of my nation, Circassia. Nobody had told me. I didn't even realize that Circassia was Circassia at that time.
Right.
And I'm like 18, 19 years old. And up until then, I didn't realize that there was a nation that there was a country on the map called Circassia.
Right.
That was mind blowing to me. I'm like, why wasn't I taught this? I've been coming to the CASA for 18, 19 years. And I think should have been something that was like jammed down our throats, basically. You know, like this was a map, you know, like here, I brought this from my room. I was like,
Thank you.
this is a map.
Wow.
It's like mirrored right now, but like this should be like in every single casa in the world, a map of Circassia, modern or old, it doesn't matter. People need to see that there was something on the maps called Circassia.
Right.
And it wasn't until my senior year of high school where somebody had asked me, Daniel, where are you? You know? And I'm like, oh, I'm Circassian. And they're like, and then their next question was, oh, where is that or whatever. They said, oh, so from Circassia, right? And up until, wait, what? I had known it was like Kafkas, the Caucasus, you know? Like when nothing as, I'm like, of course, Circassians come from Circassia. It's like common sense, you know?
Right.
And so I had these thoughts percolating in my brain, and then I learned that Sochi was going to be the site of the 2014 Winter Olympics. And then very shortly after, I realized that was the port, one of the main ports where Circassians were being exiled, and that the actual Olympic Games were going to be held on the site of genocide, on the site of where our nation had fallen. And this was 2007 was also the celebration of the 450th celebration of the unification of Russia and Circassia.
Oh, okay. We're so unified.
Exactly. They were celebrating this in 2007. So the first like Adiga protests I had participated in, and I think it was a first for a lot of people, was in October 2007, where they were where there was celebrations happening about the unification, the 450th anniversary of the unification between Russia and Circassia. If they're celebrating something 450 years ago, you're telling me I can't bring up anything 150 years ago?
Right. Yeah.
Like, come on. And so then all of this, and then slowly you begin to read articles, you begin to understand what is something sparked in my mind, you know, like I had to learn more. I was fiending for more information. I'm like, what is this all about? This was all hidden to me. Like I had to go out there and find the information. We had to go, I had to seek out people who were talking about this too. And through the years, we realized that the only way we can make any kind of impact is by taking a strong position, or as strong as we can make it, against the Sochi Olympics.
Right.
And so the first action that we had done is going to be in Vancouver during the Vancouver Olympics, which came right before the Sochi Olympics.
Right.
So when we were preparing, while we were understanding all of this, we had learned that the Russian Olympic Committee was going to put something called Sochi House in Vancouver to advertise. We're going to be the next Olympics. This is what we're going to be showing. You know, it's going to be great. Come and join us, whatever. And we're looking at this and we're like, this can't be. Like, they're not going to show anything that's Adiga. They're not going to highlight anything about the indigenous people of that area. And so we took it upon ourselves to